So, what happens when the very technology you begged for ends up pushing you further apart? Today, we're going to dig into this huge paradox in modern shipping, where this dream of constant connection has, well, created a whole new kind of tug of war. This is the story of what happens when the information superhighway finally hits the high seas.
All right, let's just jump right in with a question that I think is going to hit home for anyone who's ever spent serious time at sea. Do you remember this feeling? Literally begging for a connection. Sending an email that took, 20 minutes to just crawl its way back home, making a phone call that cost an absolute fortune. For the longest time, real connectivity, that was the dream.
And you know what? It was a dream shared by pretty much everyone, but for totally different reasons. The team on shore, they were dreaming of efficiency, real-time data, instant updates, no more waiting for reports from the next port call. But for the crew, the dream was all about sanity. It was about video calls home, watching movies that didn't buffer every 10 seconds, a real, genuine connection to the world they'd left behind. And guess what? Everybody got what they wanted, and that is where our story really begins.
To really understand this conflict, you have to look at it from two completely different worlds. So let's start with the one on land. Let's step inside the office for a minute.
When you're sitting in a comfortable office chair with good coffee and reliable air conditioning, constant contact with a vessel, it doesn't feel like micromanagement. It feels like responsibility. It's doing your job, right? Covering your bases and making sure you have all the answers before the questions even get asked. And this is where all that pressure comes from. The game has totally changed. Now, when something goes wrong, the first question isn't what happened. No way. It's who knew about this and why didn't I know sooner? You've got charterers, insurers, regulators. They all demand total visibility. So in this kind of environment, silence isn't golden. It's a massive, massive risk. Those 2 a.m. phone calls, they're not really about control. They're about protecting everyone from the brutal light of hindsight.
Okay, now let's leave that air-conditioned office behind. Let's step onto the bridge of the ship. And suddenly, the picture looks completely different.
Yeah, on board, those same well-intentioned check-ins feel entirely different. That bridge, which for centuries was the master's domain, can now feel like a live stream with a running commentary from people who aren't there, aren't getting wet, and aren't facing the immediate reality of the sea. So what feels like support from the shore feels a lot like surveillance on the ship. And here it is. This is the core disconnect. The exact same action is interpreted in two completely opposite ways. What the shore team sees as just professional responsibility, the crew experiences as a total erosion of trust. It feels like their hard-won experience is being overruled by a screen, and that trust has been completely replaced by a constant audit trail. And here's what's missing from all that data: reality. A little dot on a dashboard in an office thousands of miles away, it can't show you the actual wind and current. It doesn't see that unlit fishing boat that just appeared out of the darkness, or account for how tired the crew is after 4 months at sea. A helpful weather update from shore can't possibly factor in the pilot's timing, or the fact that the immediate priority is avoiding a collision, not optimizing fuel by a tiny fraction of a knot. So this constant back and forth, this friction between these two perspectives, it all points to a much deeper issue. It's a really uncomfortable truth that technology didn't create, it just exposed it for everyone to see. And that truth, well, it kind of boils down to this one single, powerful question. When you gain the ability to constantly check on something, does that just become an unspoken obligation to always be checking? And if you are checking constantly, what does that really say about the trust you have in the people you hired to do the job in the first place? This brings us to a concept we can call conditional trust. Think about it. Back when a ship left port and just disappeared over the horizon, you had to trust the master. I mean, there was no other choice. But all this new connectivity, it removed that physical barrier. It didn't destroy trust. It just revealed that maybe the trust was always conditional on the fact that you simply couldn't check in. So if the technology isn't really the problem, then what's the solution? Well, it's not about disconnecting the ships. It's about building something that we completely forgot when we laid all that cable and launched all those satellites. Think of it this way. We engineered this incredible information superhighway connecting ship and shore, which is amazing, but we totally forgot to install the basic rules of the road. There are no traffic lights to manage the flow of information, no speed limits on requests, and maybe most importantly, there's no working do not disturb button for when the crew really needs to just focus on the complex reality right in front of them. The way forward isn't more tech, it's more humanity. It's about creating boundaries. First, you have to establish clear rules and protocols for when the shore team should actually step in. Second, you have to foster a genuine, deep respect for the decisions made by the people who are right there, on the scene. And third, and this is a big one, a fundamental acceptance that leadership at sea involves judgment and experience that you can never, ever fully capture on a dashboard. And what's the ultimate goal here? It's something the aviation industry learned decades ago. The objective shouldn't be total visibility. That just leads to supervision. It should be shared understanding. And what that means is using all this connectivity to support leadership, not to second-guess it. It's about making sure both ship and shore have a mutual grasp of the context and the intent behind every decision. At the end of the day, we've solved the technical problem. We did it. We successfully connected the most remote parts of our world. The challenge we're facing now is a human one. We have to figure out how to reconnect the trust that this new, constant connection has, well, unintentionally strained. And we'll end with this final thought, which is just such a powerful summary of this entire tug-of-war. We celebrated all this technology for making the world smaller and bringing us all closer together. The task now is to make absolutely sure that in shrinking the ocean, we don't also shrink the authority, the judgment, and the essential human leadership of the ship's master.